Mason Drew wasn't just filming the forest, he was stalking his victims through it. To millions, he was the soft-spoken creator behind Wilderness Whispers, guiding viewers through serene trails and forgotten cabins. But behind his lens, Mason was leading the world into his carefully crafted hunting grounds where each upload masked a crime, and each scenic view hid something unspeakable. Mason Drew's YouTube channel, Wilderness Whispers, began like many others quiet, unassuming, and tucked away in a corner of the internet reserved for nature lovers and solitude seekers. His first videos were simple, solo hikes through the dense Oregon wilderness, set to calming ambient music and the soothing sounds of wind moving through trees. Another posted a slowed-down clip where a hand, pale and unmoving, could be seen behind a pile of brush. People came not just for the nature, but for the mystery. Each new upload became a puzzle, and viewers became detectives. Unknowingly, they were watching something far more sinister than a hiking vlog. They were witnessing a man documenting his crimes in plain sight, hiding horror within tranquility. And no one truly understood the danger until it was far too late. His on-camera presence was always calm, friendly, and informative. Mason's name never officially appeared in reports, and his growing popularity made accusations seem outlandish. But those watching closely knew something was wrong. As his subscriber count climbed, so did the list of missing persons, and no one could explain why the timelines matched so perfectly. Frozen on the screen was a still image that had not been meant for public view. In the far background, behind a fallen log, was what appeared to be a human foot. Pale, bare, and partially buried in leaves, it looked too lifelike to dismiss as a prop. The comment section exploded with speculation. Was it a mannequin, a trick of the light, or something more sinister? He spoke passionately about forest conservation and encouraged safety while hiking alone. He presented himself as someone deeply connected to nature and solitude. But behind the serene visuals, a darker truth was growing harder to ignore. Mason never acknowledged any of these findings. His comments section remained active but heavily moderated. They were isolated cases, spaced months apart, often involving different trailheads, different counties, and seemingly no connection. The video began like any other soft instrumental music, shots of moss-covered trees, and Mason's steady voice explaining the area's forgotten history. He highlighted a collapsed bridge and pointed out rusted mining carts half swallowed by the forest. Viewers found the atmosphere hauntingly beautiful as usual. But midway through the video, a glitch occurred, just a flicker, lasting less than a second. Most would have missed it if not for one particularly observant subscriber who paused the video at the exact frame. Most victims were solo travelers, experienced, confident, and accustomed to navigating the backcountry alone. Their disappearances didn't raise immediate alarms. Some were assumed to have gotten lost, others believed to have suffered accidents in the rugged terrain. But slowly, similarities emerged. Anything remotely suspicious was removed within hours. Still, the unease grew. These weren't typical scenic trails. They were forgotten logging roads, hidden creek beds, and overgrown paths only locals or dedicated explorers would know about. True crime enthusiasts, always scanning for patterns, began cross-referencing missing person reports with Mason's upload schedule. What they found was unsettling. Each time someone vanished, a video from the same region would appear on his channel within a few days, shot in high detail, showing off the dense forest, old ruins, or eerie landmarks, and disappeared. The occasional heavy breathing that didn't match the scene, and objects that didn't belong in the wilderness. It was only visible for a moment, blurred and half hidden by branches. But it matched the clothing described in the search bulletin for 27-year-old Jenna Holt, who vanished 2 weeks earlier. Other commenters recalled a necklace found glinting in the leaves of another video, one that resembled the jewelry worn by a college student reported missing during a solo camping trip. In one video, Mason approached a long-forgotten ranger station deep in the forest. The windows were shattered, the door slightly ajar. He pointed out old maps on the wall and a rotting cot. But for just a second, a figure seemed to dart past the broken window behind him. Most wrote it off as pareidolia, just shadows and tricks of the light, but a small number of viewers weren't so sure. He rarely showed his face, preferring wide-angle shots of overgrown trails, rusted fences, and decaying cabins. His narration was slow and thoughtful, often reflecting on the history of the land, local myths, and the healing power of nature. Viewers found peace in his voice, a kind of meditative escape from their daily lives. Within months, the channel grew from a few hundred to thousands of subscribers. Mason was dubbed the Trail Whisperer by fans, admired for his courage to hike alone into places most people would never dare to go. But something about the videos felt unsettling. Regular watchers noticed strange inconsistencies, scratches on Mason's hands that appeared. Reddit threads began to appear, analyzing every frame. Someone claimed that a woman's scream could be heard faintly in the background of a night camping vlog. Despite, or perhaps because of the tension, the channel's popularity exploded. Between 2021 and 2023, a disturbing pattern quietly unfolded in the heart of Oregon's wilderness. At first, no one connected the missing hikers. The cases all involved remote, lesser-known paths not marked on tourist maps, areas where Mason Drew frequently filmed for Wilderness Whispers. One of the most chilling connections came when a viewer noticed a missing hiker's red jacket hanging from a tree in the background of Mason's Shadows Over Pine Hollow video. Despite the rising suspicions, there was no hard evidence to implicate Mason. Local law enforcement began to take notice, but without a witness or physical proof, there was little they could do. In April 2024, Mason Drew uploaded a video titled Buried Secrets of Lost Creek. It was filmed in a secluded part of Oregon known for its dense underbrush, abandoned mine shafts, and nearly non-existent cell reception. What they discovered was horrifying. Frozen on the screen was a still image that had not been meant for public view. In the far background, behind a fallen log, was what appeared to be a human foot. Pale, bare, and partially buried in leaves, it looked too lifelike to dismiss as a prop. The comment section exploded with speculation. Was it a mannequin, a trick of the light, or something more sinister? The Reddit community that had been tracking Mason's channel for months sprang into action. Users began combing through his older videos with renewed urgency. As the video continued circulating, amateur sleuths tried enhancing the image, adjusting brightness and contrast, and tracing the terrain shown in the footage to locate the exact spot. The carefully curated mask of a peaceful hiker had cracked, and through that brief, frozen frame, the horrifying reality behind Wilderness Whispers began to bleed through. The forest was no longer a place of peace, it had become a graveyard documented in high definition. People speculated that the editing error had revealed something he never intended anyone to see. Not the nature walks and voiceovers that fans had come to love, but something far darker, long, silent videos of people being watched. The evidence was overwhelming. Mason had created a twisted timeline, documenting his victims before and sometimes after their final moments. He had inserted himself into their last days, not only stalking them but turning them into props for his public persona. Titled The Hunt Ends Here, it had been scheduled in advance, set to publish at 4 a.m. sharp. By then, news of Mason Drew's secret life had already spread across the internet. He had followed them, studied their routines, and waited until the trail grew quiet. He didn't show emotion, didn't offer apology. His viewers hadn't just witnessed nature, they had unknowingly followed a path of horror carved into the woods, step by careful step. Instead, he claimed his recordings were artifacts, not trophies, but stories that no one else had the courage to tell. As the camera slowly zoomed out, Mason reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out a folded map, and placed it on a tree stump beside him. He said, "This is where it ends," and walked out of frame. The screen faded to black. The video was 10 minutes long. Law enforcement had confirmed the discovery of multiple bodies near the Lost Creek property. He had taken his own life. Scattered around him were the final pages of a handwritten journal, detailing every crime. He had logged each date, each victim, and each location with chilling precision. The entries stopped with one final note: they watched, and they never saw. Mainstream media picked up the story, branding him the backwoods butcher. His face was everywhere, but Mason himself had vanished. Some were filmed from behind bushes or trees. Others captured victims setting up tents, completely unaware they were being recorded. In several, Mason's shadow loomed in the background, camera in hand, breathing audible. These videos were dated just hours or days before the hikers vanished. And in one particularly haunting clip, a woman nervously looks over her shoulder as Mason whispers from off camera, "You're almost home now." In one from a year earlier, a blurred hand could be seen beneath a cabin porch, motionless and partially covered by pine needles. In another, the outline of a figure standing deep in the woods was barely visible through thick fog. Mason's audience, once enamored with his calming presence, now realized they had been watching real people vanish in real time. He hadn't just filmed nature, he had filmed death, and he had hidden it beneath soft music and filtered sunlight. The forest wasn't just his sanctuary, it was his hunting ground. A specialized unit used terrain matching software to identify the precise location of the disturbing frame. It led them to a private parcel of land nearly inaccessible by road, registered to Mason Drew under a different LLC. His face was expressionless, his voice calm. There was no background music, no cuts or transitions. He stood completely still as the camera recorded in a single, uninterrupted take. Then he began speaking. He explained how easily people believed what they were shown, how appearances, tone, and repetition could mask anything. He said the woods had always been honest with him, far more than people ever were. And in the forest, he could be who he truly was. The property was surrounded by dense trees and bordered by cliffs, making it the perfect hiding place. When law enforcement arrived, they found an old, weather-worn cabin, its exterior covered in vines, with broken windows and a rusted chimney. But what lay beneath it was far more disturbing. These details had gone unnoticed at the time, but now they were impossible to ignore. The glitch in the Lost Creek video served as a spark. It was undeniable. Something real, a mistake Mason hadn't caught before uploading. For the first time, local authorities began treating the YouTube channel as more than just a curiosity. Mason had, perhaps unknowingly, exposed himself. The investigation took a dramatic turn once authorities began examining the Lost Creek video in detail. Hidden behind a false wall in the basement was a concealed room, meticulously soundproofed and insulated. Inside, police found rows of storage containers, each one labeled with GPS coordinates and dates. Some held torn clothing, hiking gear, or notebooks. Others contained personal effects, IDs, jewelry, and even handwritten notes from the missing individuals. In the far corner, sealed in a small cabinet, were over a dozen flash drives. When analyzed, the content left investigators stunned. Each drive held raw, unedited footage. The FBI was brought in, and forensic teams began matching the objects in the hidden room to the growing list of missing persons. As the news broke, the internet erupted. Wilderness Whispers was pulled offline, but not before millions of downloads occurred. In the early hours of May 3, 2024, a new video unexpectedly appeared on the Wilderness Whispers YouTube channel. The video opened with Mason standing alone in a misty clearing, dressed in the same flannel and hiking boots he wore in nearly every vlog. The monologue grew darker. He described how each hike was planned, how every victim had been chosen for their solitude, for their silence. When officers reached the clearing later that day based on the map coordinates left behind, they found Mason's body at the base of a ravine. The story closed a chapter on a killer who had used the internet not to hide, but to showcase his darkness. His viewers hadn't just witnessed nature, they had unknowingly followed a path of horror carved into the woods, step by careful step.